Hello everyone. This will be an in-depth discussion on how to play Pyro like you understand the suffering of others. Now, when I first played Team Fortress 2, I held an affinity towards the Pyro, which is a generalist class, meaning that there are so many ways to develop specific playstyles that vary among players. However, like when I first started, as well as everyone else, people tended to use the exact same playstyle, W plus M1, or even just M1. It is ridiculous air blasting a Pyro into the air and watching them try to burn the entire atmosphere ineffectively. Well, lucky for you F2Ps and stupid high-level Pyro mains who have played like that their entire lives, here's a way to make Pyro more of an interesting class. But first, when a new player opens the game for the first time and is forced to pick a class, 9 times out of 10, they're going to pick the Heavy. But that final, fateful 10% of new players will definitely pick the Soldier. But, sometimes they'll pick Pyro. They look at that fancy, cool flamethrower and be like, Fire is awesome! I'm gonna change my username to XX_FireGodUsurper_XX420, and then they'll start playing, kill 3 people, instantly top score, but then bottom score because it's the beginning of a round, and die to like a rocket launcher. This is an effective class, he says with a fuming contempt for Soldier. When an older player looks at Pyro, they'll probably say, Ew, get a load of this guy. What do you even do with a flamethrower besides point and shoot? Just walk into a Pyro's melee range and you're dead. I hate the Pyro. Yeah, I use the Kunai and Deadringer. This is not an effective class, every spy player. But I have found that there are many ways to make Pyro a fun class to play, and to play against. Throughout this video, you'll see statistics and gameplay footage of my experience playing Pyro and experimenting with different playstyles. In Team Fortress 2, there is a plethora of weapons you can choose from. Most of them actually belonging to Pyro being second place in the unlockable weapon list with 20. Allegedly. However, nowadays I usually just see people only go for 2 weapons. Stock Flamethrower and the Phlogistinator. One of them being known as the second most hated Pyro weapon. Or third. Does that make those weapons better at killing people though? Maybe. Maybe. But killing people doesn't win games in casual, mostly. It's working as a team. The scoreboard inherently means, mostly, nothing. Despite the fact that you will see me check it every time I die. I will not use the scoreboard for judgment, I'm simply looking for effectiveness and funability. If you look at flamethrower statistics, you can see that the Flog and the Flamethrower have similar stats, which is probably why people are most drawn to them. They have the same damage, afterburn, and it takes the same amount of ammunition per tick. However, there is one notable difference between them, and that is the fact that the Flog can't air blast. How does that affect a beginner, or even an older player? Well, for 60% of them, it doesn't do much. I see Pyros run away from soldiers and die more often than I see people air blast them ineffectively, even more so to kill a soldier with a reflected rocket, and even, a little less so accidentally kill a soldier with a reflected rocket. And for the 40% that it does affect, it would be a terrible experience. The main complaints I see for the Flog are that it is terrible for the enemy and terrible for the user. It's terrible for the enemy because the Pyro has a certain fire damage dealing secondary equipped. They can reach full oomph and get free crits from standing behind a wall and doing nothing else. I'm not particularly mad at that, but if they have a pocket medic, then it's 1,000% justifiable to create them. And I mean 1,000%. Do it 10 times. Really drive it home. Also, I hate the flame particles. Weather Station Heat Wave Off Flamethrower. Alright, now that I have the most controversial out of the way, let's talk about everything else. Now I said that the Flog had an air blast penalty of 100%, but did you know that all primary drops for Pyro have an air blast deficit? Now the second worst air blasting flamethrower, and I don't mean second worst flamethrower, I think they're all great, with a slight exception for this one. This was a difficult decision to come to, but I think that the Backburner takes this spot. The Backburner also deals a lot of free crits. However, you have to do that from behind the player. And considering the jankiness of the flame particles, and that you have to get behind the player in the first place, I think it does decently well for being strictly an offensive position. However, the thing that kills the Backburner for me is the absolutely devastating 150% air blast cost penalty. This thing destroys 25% of your ammunition, 50 points of ammo, compared to the flamethrower, which only takes 20. In the eyes of a soldier, or in the eye of the demo man, that's an easy target. It was painful for me to use, but it does deal some good damage. It also consumes a little bit less ammunition per tick, meaning it takes longer before you need to reload unless you air blast, and in that case you should just run, because there is no hope left. Next up on the air blast tier list, because I guess we're doing that now, is the Dragon's Fury. The Dragon's Fury does technically have an air blast cost that's only comparable through percentages with the Degreaser, since they both take 12.5% of the ammunition, but it's not here for the cost penalty, it's for the repressurization rate penalty, being minus 50%. Taking the amount of time to fire 2 shots of flame damage, with the incredible bonus of dealing triple damage to burning players. And the game registers that as base damage, meaning the weapon only deals 1/3 damage to players that aren't on fire, which of course, if the Dragon's Fury only dealt around 20 damage at a time, that would make the Dragon's Fury a terrible weapon. I don't know much about Jungle Inferno, but I do know that this is one of the best things to come out of it. It is my second favorite flamethrower, and I'm shocked that it's one of the first Pyro Link contract's rewards. That's almost funny, because this weapon, damage-wise, is not even that good anyway. It cannot compete with any other flamethrower in terms of damage, unless we're counting crits, and even then the Degreaser beats it, and that's honestly strange to me. Next up on the list is the Degreaser, which is my personal choice of flamethrower simply for speed, and for flare punching, classy. It is so satisfying to hit a pyro with a crit flare gun. Now for the stats, it deals slightly less damage and particle firing speed per tick, being able to kill a light class within 8.7 seconds compared to the usual 8.3, but the 30% holster and 60% deploy speed is the saving grace of this weapon, used effectively. It can be used to deal devastating damage as a pick class. Another bonus for the Degreaser is that you will end up with more ammunition per tick, so you will go a while without needing a dispenser or an ammo pack. The only real way to play this weapon is to use your secondary. If you use the gas passer or thermal thruster with them, it cannot be utilized for what it was made for. Finally, we have the flamethrower. Nothing much to say, but excluding the flog, it is considered a keystone W+M1 machine, instantly dumbing down the user. This weapon is probably why Pyro is so stigmatized due to the pain experienced for not using this weapon effectively. In fact, I rarely used it for gathering clips except for that one time. It is in all essence a boring weapon. There is no gimmick other than the fact that this is easily the best air blasting flamethrower, and that would be the only reason I would ever use it. The stats for most of the secondaries can all be described in a very simple way, in the fact that the flare guns, especially, are made in pairs. The flare gun and the man melter both deal the same flame damage, and you can both gather crits easily. The flare gun only needing burning enemies, and the man melter needing burning allies. The other side of the flare spectrum is a little more nefarious. I say nefarious because I couldn't think of a synonym for controversial, a word I have already used, despite the fact that I have also used devastating twice. The detonator can deal mini crit damage on burning players and can explode to get more than one player at a time. The score shot also kind of does this, except twice, giving you twice the ammunition if you make consistent shots. This is usually paired with the flog to build oomph faster, and is also hated. The shotguns are also pretty self-explanatory. The most notable differences are the panic attack switch speed and the reserve shooter miniguns. Now let's get into the other end of the secondaries. First, we have the problem child, the gas passer. Extremely annoying to use and completely ineffective and useless. Or so people think. Okay, well maybe. I mean, they've kind of buffed it, but it was a change that needed to happen anyway. But I found the easiest and best way to increase the gas passer meter and give it a little more use time, but more on that later. I just want a chance to show you what I could do to fix this weapon completely without changing meter stats. Turn mini crits into full crits, 150% effect lifetime on ground and player, plus 75% afterburn damage, and make the fire inextinguishable through Air Blast, Girardi, Mad Milk, or Gas Passer. Actually, you know what? Make it extinguishable with only more Gas Passers. Why not? Also, make the effect cloud bigger. And finally, the Thermal Thruster is kind of cool, I guess. I don't like the squishy sound effect, though. It just sounds like my shoes are covered in pudding. And I hate pudding. Now we have the melees. There are a few to mention, like how the Neon Annihilator restricts you to 3 maps unless you have the Gas Passer equipped like I just said. The Lollychop burns your eyes, and the Power Jack makes you go zoom. The Postal Palm Oil looks better than the Extinguisher and makes you go zoom. The third degree is... useless. Trust me, the third degree and medic specifically get their own segment. And the Homewrecker is the Spy Killer. There is no reason to use the Fire Axe if you have any other melees. Now the base damage for all the weapons is 65 points, and that's only true for 3 other weapons. The Extinguisher's damage penalty is substantial, but in return for going zoom and mini-critting players, I think it's a fair trade-off. And the Back Scratcher's damage bonus in conjunction with the Nightmare that is healing penalties is also quite fair. The only real issue with any of the weapons I have is with the Sharpened Volcano Fragment. I could not get another Extinguisher for the life of me,
so I had to buy one for 10 cents and craft one, and it turned out to be kinda trash. Just use the flamethrower at that point, and use a useful melee.
Massive disappointment. The damage ranking for the flamethrowers show that for the average damage, the Degreaser surprisingly has some of the highest average damages that aren't point blank. This is surprising because the Degreaser is what I would consider to be on the weaker side, so it definitely took me by surprise. Factoring the Dragon's Fury would completely stun all other factors in damage ranks, considering it deals 23 damage minimum. Factor the 300% bonus in, and you can still 3-shot scouts without them even knowing what's going on. And considering how I'll tell you how to use this weapon, it might be 1-shot, so why doesn't it feel that way? Well, there's another statistic that plays with this called attack interval. You might not have known, but each flamethrower has one. It calculates how long it will take to fire another flame particle, or I don't really know that. The Flamethrower and Flog both have 0.075 and the Backburner and Degreaser have 0.105. But the Dragon's Fury takes 800 milliseconds to fire again, leading to slow attacks and time to kill. The Flamethrower, Backburner, and Phlogistonator all take the same amount of time to kill each class, taking 0.833 seconds to kill a light class, 1.6 seconds to kill a medium class, 175 HP, 2 seconds to kill a heavy, no, none of these will take afterburn into account, and 3 seconds to kill an overdeal heavy. The Degreaser takes slightly longer with 0.87, 1.22, and 2.10 and 3.15 seconds respectively, and due to the math being more simple, it takes 1.6 seconds to kill a light and medium class, 3.2 seconds to kill a heavy, and 4.8 seconds to kill an overheal heavy. But this doesn't account for the actual damage, just the minus 66% damage on non-burning players. The Dragon's Fury actually takes 2.1 seconds to kill a heavy, and 3.2 if he's overhealed. That's pretty good for a weapon that's part of only beating the Degreaser on 300 health. Furthermore, the Dragon's Fury takes 32 seconds to completely reduce its ammunition count to 0, just in between the Flamethrower Flog statistic and the Degreaser Backburner statistic. The shotgun statistics are very boring and I don't want to get into them. Panic Attack is orange, Reserve Shooter is blue, here are the graphs, have fun. The flares are easier and funner to explain. Take the flare gun and the man melter. They both deal the exact same damage, however they have 2 different ways of dealing crits that switch up how you play Pyro by a lot. The flare gun can give you free crits just by shooting the enemy, making you play offensively, but the man melter collects crits by right-clicking on burning team players, forcing you to stick with your team. This can help with a little thing called variety, make Pyro more fun! And now you have the Detonator and the Detonator's trouble cousin who went to Juvie. They don't have the exact same statistics. The Detonator deals more damage than the Scorch Shot, but here's the tricky thing with the Scorch Shot. It can hit multiple people at once. If you make all of your shots consistent, then you effectively have twice the ammunition. Not to mention it deals mini crits on burning players. You can shoot burning players and completely destroy them because, as well as dealing devastating damage, I said devastating again, it stun locks players, leaving them suspended in the air for what feels like forever. This is why people loathe the Flog Scorch Shot combo. Just use the Detonator, guys. It deals less overall damage. Sure, at least you can det jump. It's much funner this way. I'm not talking about the Gas Passer and Thermal Thruster statistics because that's stupid. Just use the Degreaser with the Gas Passer. Now it is time for melees, the one you've all been waiting for. Now for the sake of simplicity, for the power scaling I'll compare it to the Fire Axe, the Back Scratcher, and the Hot Hand. The Back Scratcher is stupid strong if you ignore the healing rate, and the Hot Hand is stupid weak. I mean, look at this graph. That damage is abysmal. So that means there's another statistic to balance it out, right? No, besides a speed boost. Unless you count the fact that it hits twice, but we'll talk about that later. This weapon is and always was a joke weapon. It can't even crit effectively. I'm not going to share time to kill or hits to kill, because the statistics are terrible between them. Change from the fire axe, minimal. Change from the back scratcher, negligible. Change from the hot hand, non-existent. So there you go. The other weapons that aren't important either, except for the one that haunted me for weeks. The weapon that made me pale just hearing the name. The dreaded 3rd degree. I believe you know why. This takes me to a lengthy contemplation on another realization that I've had. And it is the fact that I really hate medic mains. There's nothing wrong with the class itself, and there's nothing wrong with using that class. I hate the mains, because the moment they unlock the crossbow, or the Blutsauger, and the Ubersaw, they no longer main medic. All of a sudden, they think they're spies, but with random crits. They're bad for pyros who want to get a combo kill with a 3rd degree, and they're bad for their own team, because they will seldom or even never heal people effectively. They'll just shoot people with bows now. And even if they do use their medigun, the thing they have active on default at spawn, the moment they see someone attacking the person they're healing, and the person they're healing is fully aware of and is doing well, the medic is just like, I'm gonna stab this person now, because I hate everyone, and myself, and you, because I want to prove that I am the best medic main by not being a medic and not doing my job at all. And then the person they're healing dies because they're an idiot who does not understand that this is called Team Fortress and not Medic Fortress. Use your medigun, you absolute stupid face. You complete buffoon. You are a disgrace to doctors everywhere. Use anything. Use the vaccinator. I do not care. Just use it. Furthermore, stand still. No, you are not using your epic gaming skills to dodge every bullet in Rocket because you're a gamer god. In fact, you are a complete opposite. You just make yourself look stupid. You are dodging nothing, you pathetic little... weakling. A scout would immediately kill you 20 times over if he could, but he's too busy fighting back the soldier you're supposed to be healing. Stand still, so I can destroy you and your patient and all patients you've healed within 5 seconds of each other, so I can get an epic quadruple kill with a 3rd degree crit. And in all honesty, you, medic mains of all people, are the ones who deserve it. If I wasn't restrained by my own hubris and, even yet, the little shred of magnanimity I have, I would demolish you within decaseconds, you waste of air and space. I will have you drawn and quartered until you are finally where you belong, in the very gut of hell. And even then, I will be there, waiting for you, continuing my drive and insistence of your pain and suffering until finally I relieve the entire world of the pain you gave, the lives you caused due to your incessant incompetencies. Then, and only then, can there finally be world peace, and the fortitude of having fun in a video game will be established. A video game that has been around as long as I have lived, long enough time for you to learn how to give people the vitality they deserve. And now, I direct this conversation to Valve, and the team working on TF2. Give the third degree a damage bonus. Thank you. This is the segment where I show you the loadouts that I've found to either statistically work or just end up working, from the most defensive to the most offensive. Starting with what I call the defensive Pyro. Please note that some of these subdivisions are based on what I think are the best ways to play Pyro. Like I had said, there are many ways to play Pyro due to him being the General's class, but there are so many ways to utilize his abilities. Some modifications can and may be made to develop how you want to play, unless that is W plus M1. In that case, just play heavy. In short, I was not expecting whatever the defensive Pyro had to offer. In long, I was genuinely astounded. This loadout was so fun to play that I might actually start playing like this from now on. This set will generally consist of the Dragon's Fury, the Man Melter, Detonator, or Gas Passer, and the Back Scratcher, or Neon Annihilator. Let me tell you why I think that this set is the best possible use for the Gas Passer, at least while using the Annihilator. The Dragon's Fury is, as I've already stated, pretty powerful and is capable of dealing up to 90 damage at a time, and the Gas Passer takes 1 minute or 750 damage every use. Meaning, if you just get good, you can just use the Gas Passer multiple times before you die, throw it at a group of enemies in a push, or pick someone off with the Annihilator. Using the Detonator can make you more mobile, and more defensive by moving backwards to reestablish a barrier. And the Man Melter can collect crits from burning players. The Back Scratcher is good for taking down someone you probably got behind and doesn't notice you. The healing penalty doesn't mean much because you likely won't have it out for long, and this set is used for giving your full support to your team anyways. One problem I have with it though is that I miss my shots a lot of the time, and since I'm a god gamer anyways, there are only 2 reasons for this happening. The first is because the projectile of the hitbox of the Dragon's Fury is a lie, and the second is because the weapon itself is way too slow to counteract change in the direction of the opponent. It's because the weapon itself is too slow to counteract change in the direction of the opponent. It's definitely the former. However, considering how long it takes to fire another shot, I wouldn't try to take down a full health heavy or an overhealed heavy at all, unless you have a Kritzkrieg medic on your side. Because crits stack on the Dragon's Fury, meaning you can deal at once 260 damage, allegedly, instantly killing every player aside from an overhealed heavy, which will only require 2 shots, still allegedly. There is still an issue with the clunkiness of the weapon considering the bonus sometimes doesn't work completely, but it hasn't really hindered me at all. Even better is, it keeps Pyros on fire for just a little bit longer than any of the flamethrowers do, so that's another reason why you should use it, so that you can stack bonus hits on Pyros. So there you go. This Pyro has possibly the second weirdest loadout on here, considering it uses the Phlogistinator, the Man Melter or Detonator, and the Homewrecker. This loadout works great in my opinion. Not much room to fully leave the team, but just enough to advance forward. This is the scenario where the Flog is the most docile and the least rage-inducing. It is another set to be used to be close to your team, especially when it comes to the Man Melter being able to help your team by extinguishing them. And the Detonator can build up the oomph meter for emergencies and pushes, and only for emergencies and pushes. No other time, please. I will be mad and find you. This set is inherent proof that the Flog is and always will be a support weapon. Not a defensive weapon because you can't air blast. It is technically for offensives, but the most aggressive thing you do with it is W plus M1, and that's when the Flog rears its ugly side of its head. Note I understand the original phrase, I'm just modifying it. The Flog is meant for dealing with and committing to pushes, but in its off time it's more of a hit and run weapon. Go in, kill someone, seek help. Because this is meant to be played to help your team, not disrupt the enemy. Scorched Earth doesn't work without food, and you can quote me on that. Plus, if you get too far away from the team and start attacking a fully aware demo, 2 direct pills and you're dead. The Man Melter is kind of used in specific use cases, but there will likely be a Pyro on the other team anyway. The Homewrecker is for engineer buildings, most likely. This set will have you stand rather close to a nest. But when you hear, "Spy sapping my sentry," or "There's a spy creeping around here," that's when you know to ignore all further instructions and to help the NG with the sappers. It worked so much better than I expected. Hello everyone, we're going to take a momentary break to talk about all the other fire weapons that aren't used by the Pyro. The Huolong Heater is a minigun for the heavy that constantly takes 4 ammo away while spun up, but it also gives you a fire shield around you, so that depending on the enemy player, could work most times or is completely useless. I would say that this is definitely not used to directly confront other people, which is what someone would want to do just to light them on fire. That's how gimmick weapons work. It just really wants people to use it in the way that the game wants you to use it. Also, it's confirmed that 4 bullets equal fire. The Cow Mangler 5000 is genuinely the greatest weapon in TF2 history. You get free mini crits by pressing a button, it lights people on fire, it's the greatest weapon in TF2 history, it disables sentries, it's the greatest weapon in TF2 history, it doesn't explicitly say that it causes dimension and short-term memory loss, it's the greatest TF2 weapon in history. Honestly, the downside shouldn't even affect you, because I see this as a defensive weapon. It's especially good when paired with a banner. Plus, you can disable sentries, which, if your team isn't entirely brain dead, should be able to handle it. The stun on a stick is stupid and it doesn't belong here, but Classy insisted that it counted just because of mini crit damage to burning players. It's the stock bat, but a little more damage towards burning enemies. It's so stupid. The Huntsman is a pretty good weapon. I don't know why people call it the Luxman. It's a pure skill weapon. The screen is much bigger for Huntsman players, so there's much more room for error. All rifle players have no skill confirmed. Also, powers and some map elements can light the tip on fire and burn people. That's why it's here. Now back to your regularly scheduled programming. This is the part where I've started to see more people playing nowadays. And at this point, where you think you're a pretty good decent player, this is probably where you are right now. But here, I'm gonna crush your dreams. You know the Dunning-Kruger effect? Get ready for the Pyro Heavy effect. A rising and falling effect depending on just how good you think you are at the game, and most of these players are right at the edge of total knowledge. Just because you can hit most crit flares doesn't mean you need to buy all strange weapons, but I mean it is rather satisfying. This loadout, or at least the better version, uses the degreaser, flare gun or detonator, and the power jack or extinguisher. This set has you run with the power jack, light people on fire with a degreaser, and hit them with the flare gun, swapping back and forth for maximum damage or air blasting. Leave with the power jack in case of trouble, or if you're using the extinguisher, hit them with it. Now the second version, the dumb and stupid one, uses the degreaser, panic attack, and the extinguisher. As you can tell, this one is bland and dumb due to the lack of customizability. This set makes full use of the panic attack swap time to create the most stupid attack strategy, which is to just shoot them. Or light them on fire, hit them with the extinguisher and then shoot them, and then die most likely. If you use this, you can keep eating your unflavored oats with a side of plain grits and milk. Or if it's dinner where you are, unseasoned chicken and rice. Also, even though the switch speed is high and fires 15 pellets, the likelihood that you'll hit all of your shots is minimal, and the damage fall off is that substantial. I would rather take the weapon that has a flat rate of 30 damage instead of a weapon that can deal that much sometimes, and at a distance where it'd be easier to press the left mouse button. Also, you can flare punch pyros. It's very fun, and sometimes I've killed pyros by doing that. It's so funny. Just do that. It makes more sense, plus it's funnier. Just do it, please. Just do that more, and it will be funnier than the panic attack. Don't use the panic attack unless you're, not a pyro, please? Congratulations. We have reached the point where things start to get a little abysmal, for lack of a better word. Any further discussion over the main weapon loadouts from now on will be discussed more negatively. If you pass this grueling test, you will acquire a prize at the end of the segment. Thank you.
And we now resume.
This pyro uses these weapons: the backburner, the thermal thruster for airborne capabilities and getting behind enemy lines, any shotgun, and the extinguisher. This is one of the few loadouts that I actually hated. The backburner, probably one of the highest average damage dealing weapons, cannot air blast effectively, creating an ammo botch searching hell in the presence of projectiles, making this boring to play. You are going to die. The air blast deficit is so penalizing, with no actual boost in air blast capability whatsoever, forcing us to abandon one of the only counters against the soldier. This loadout is what I consider peak pick for Pyro. It is also one of the worst pick loadouts of all time. Sure, you can pick someone off well as long as it isn't a soldier or a demo, but after that you kind of just have to die unless you can get behind someone again. But you probably won't be able to use your jetpack because, considering most map layouts, you're probably under a roof or an overpass, and finding a way back inside won't be helpful either. The extinguisher and shotgun are there to reduce any more time using the flamethrower, but having an extinguish won't be helpful for the extinguisher, hence the shotgun. That means you will spend less time getting behind people. This is probably my least favorite loadout. It's not fun to play, and you can't air blast further than 20 feet away from an ammo source. And it encourages W plus M1. Or at least, it would be my least favorite loadout, if there wasn't something you're all probably very familiar with. The flog, or backburner, scorch shot, and the back scratcher, extinguisher, or sharpened volcano fragment. This loadout was mechanically and genetically engineered to cause the most damage possible, and inciting the worst in anyone using this loadout or fighting against it. This weapon, while being a support weapon, and I have been calling it a support weapon, this is an offensive loadout. And I mean offensive in both terms. Surviving until the very end of it all is the last thing these people want. The number one priority is building the oomph meter. Kill spies in 2 hits with back scratcher if you're merciful, or deal flame damage with the sharpened volcano fragment. Deal mini crit damage with the scorch shot, and use all the rage you've siphoned from every seething soul you demolished. Call for a medic, and let your enemies succumb to the relentless crit push they so terribly loathed and feared. Nothing can stop what cannot feel. The people who play like this no longer understand the meaning of effective nature. Everything it held close to them is now fully lost. It is no longer human. The only thing in its mind is to destroy all that moves and more. Or just shoot it with a rocket launcher. You can do that too. Yeah, this is absurdly boring. It succeeds in failing me in ways the Assault Pyro never could. No air blast. You are very susceptible to dying after the taunt. Crits whenever you need to with no catch. W plus M1. The flame particles. It reduces metagun percentage, and if some unlucky soul launches you in the air somehow, despite not being able to deal knockback to, but it happens, the Pyro will taunt cancel, removing one of its only weaknesses. These actually wouldn't be so bad if they were mainly used as a support weapon. The thing I've been preaching for a while now, making it easier on the user and the usee. Congratulations! If you are here, that means you passed the test. If you skip the last 2 parts by using the chapters, you also passed the test. This is a test of will and knowing your limit. Now go get your prize. Drumroll, please. I might not go into depth with any of these, and most likely I'm not even gonna do this in more than one take. I'm probably just gonna do it with one take. Or I might even just do this, these lines completely raw. So let's see how that goes. Now, the Pyro is exactly what you would expect, with the rain blower, festive flare gun, technically the scorch shot came out of the Pyromania, the lollipop, including some cosmetics with the Pyrovision goggles, the infernal orchestrina, and the burning bongos. This weapon set gives you full Pyroland experience. Aside from burning your eyes off, the only thing that adds any effect is the flare gun. Now, burning your eyes off is a little bit of a funny joke because, as you can see, in the hit video game Team Fortress 2, there is a class called the Pyro. Now, the Pyro can light people on fire with a flamethrower. I'm making this reference because when the Pyro uses the flamethrower, it burns you. And, like, if you use, like, any of the Pyroland cosmetics or weapons, then the Pyro, the burning, it burns your eyes instead of other people. So that's the joke, and that's why it's funny. The pacifist Pyro has stock flamethrower, shotgun, and the lollipop. That's it. I really thought I went somewhere with that. The multitask Pyro is for the players who want to pretend like they're Miss Pauling for a minute, constantly going back and forth between the front lines and home, babysitting all the other players with the degreaser, scorch shot, and the extinguisher. The Pyro Strike is probably the most restrictive of all the loadouts, with just a flamethrower, the gas passer, and the neon annihilator. You will not be using your flamethrower. Just find some water to sit in or wait for your gas meter to build up and die before you can use it. The solo pyro, while being some sort of alliteration, removes the team out of Team Fortress. You go off on your own and kill people. The professional arsonist is like the Scorched Earth Pyro, but while not being the only one technically without the word pyro in the name, it's also looking to set as many people on fire as possible, irony, with the Flog, Detonator, and the Sharpened Volcano Fragment. The Frida Pyro is just that. This loadout makes you let go of any other weapons and brain cells. Use all stock and use just that. There truly is bliss in simplicity after all. Alright, this one is more of a weapon concept idea. This set uses the back burner, the back scratcher, and the back scatter? Kind of. This is the spine eviscerator pyro. It includes a weapon concept idea where it's a shotgun that gives the enemy strong knockback from behind, like a concussive weapon. My idea is 200% knockback force, or even 500%, it's even funnier, from behind, 120 pellet count, marks target from death from behind, 30% reload speed, and 16% clip size, so 1 bullet per shot. Also, make the back scratcher do something from behind too, like slow opponents, and bleed
3 seconds.
Give it an item set, give it an ability, increase backburner flame reach or air blast strength, and boom, best weapon set of all time. And it fixes my least favorite flamethrower. So I guess that's it. I talked about every pyro weapon, even the ones that don't exist. All of them. No turn left unstoned. I wrote that on accident and I kept it. So that's it, my cubers. Thank you for watching. Goodbye. The video is over. Cue the end card. Bye-bye.
Albert Einstein proposed the question, hand or not to hand? And the scholars of the future were able to encapsulate this long-fabled, stumping ponder with the hot hand. Released in the Flooby Magoo basement update, the hot hand is by far the most complex, strongest, and fun of all the weapons in hit game Team Fortress 2. It strikes a solid 2% damage per swing and has the ability to slap people alongside slapping them. It takes up the Pyro's hand slot in the weapon wheel, with this being the primary solution to the ever-present melee conundrum.
Now, everything you just said was all great and coherent, but why do we speak so well of it despite the fact that it has the worst damage stats? Remember when I said that the hot hand hits twice? The damage factors the second hit in, increasing the damage output, making this secretly the best pyro melee in TF2. The hit to kill graphs I showed you earlier turn into clicks to kill when you account for this change.
There are many people who would say the hot hand is the worst of all the weapons in TF2, but they all seem to miss the most important part of the gamer mindset: dopamine. This hand is a physical embodiment of a syringe with chemicals being injected into your brain. The slap having terrible damage and range simply adds to the syringe-happy chemical feeling when you finally land a hit or kill with it. Either way, you know the events that took you to this moment are all for naught as you crash full force with the power of a child murderous Nicolas Cage is insurmountable to even the greatest of accomplishments. And then when you think there is nothing else but the ever-closing maw of death coming for you, wham! A lobotomy needle hits your brain as you realize there is another slap. The faster speed of the hot hand means that your meat pancake of a brain can continue waffling around in Happy Land for as long as the enemy heavy doesn't use the ever so slightest usage of his peripheral vision. There's a reason Pyro stands for personal usage of your operating digits. Also, I'm not a war criminal, I did nothing wrong!
But realistically, you can use whatever loadout you want. It doesn't matter. Like I said, Pyro is a generalist class, so just have fun unless you use the offensive Pyro. In that case, keep getting more kills for your Hail Zone Phlogistonator and Scorch Shot. Please, I desperately need to know how long you've been unemployed. You'll make it to 4,294,967,295 points eventually. Also,